Hey you, yeah you who clicked on this video. Thanks for giving our channel a shot. And if you will, please do us the honor of watching the video all the way through. Appreciate it. Now onto the video. So after the announcements at D23 Expo and Season 3 of The Mandalorian, it definitely seems that Disney, Star Wars, and Lucasfilm under Kathleen Kennedy have an issue with not only males, but male minorities. Looking at Star Wars post George Lucas' sale of Lucasfilm under false pretense to Bob Iger and the Disney company, we will examine whether or not there's any merit to these claims. So first and foremost, we have to look at the sequel trilogy of films, which were in retrospect a rudderless mess made by committee and had no clear vision for its story and characters. But I digress. Were the characters and actors of color treated well or not? Well, let's start with the character of Finn, played by John Boyega, who was, after being hyped up in trailers and promotional media as a big part of the sequel trilogy and possible Force user, was instead relegated to token black comic relief and even minimized in importance and promotional posters in Chinese markets because of China's overt racism toward black people, which was also shown towards Chadwick Boseman in Black Panther. Then there's Oscar Isaac, who played Poe Dameron. Oscar Isaac is an actor of Guatemalan descent who started off strong in The Force Awakens, but is later relegated to side character and disrespected as the trilogy progresses in favor of his white female counterparts. What makes this even more alarming is that almost every female main character is made to be a version of a self-inserted Kathleen Kennedy, whether we're talking about the embodiment of Wooden Mary Sue, aka the Amazing Wonder Ray, played by Daisy Ridley, or the unrecognizable reimagined Mary Poppins-esque General Leia, all of which are meant to mirror Cray Cray KK in some way. The trilogy even goes as far as to replace J.J. Abrams' vision, which would have had Rey and Finn be co-leads, and replaces it with a heavy-handed, forced adversarial romance with Rey and Kylo Ren, aka Ben Solo, a psychopath who commits patricide, matricide, and attempted avunclecide. That's killing one's uncle. Part of this can be blamed on China, but most is on Kathleen Kennedy, since the Chinese market has never been checking for Star Wars, and the more fair-skinned male minorities get treated poorly for being first male and secondly for being non-white. But hey, if you don't think KK has a racial bias against male minorities, keep watching. So next, we delve into the spin-offs, first of which is Rogue One, a Star Wars story. This is a hard film for me to critique because, for the most part, even though I despise what Disney has done to the Star Wars property, I can't say that I hated this movie. Now, this film is based off of a group of spies that stole the plans for the original Death Star in Star Wars A New Hope. With the story never being told outside of books that were deemed no longer canon by Disney, there was a huge opportunity for creativity in this film to not only create new characters, but also to use characters that we had only seen before in other Star Wars media. So how did Lucasfilm handle this? Well, if your first guess was to make another self-insert of Kathleen Kennedy and make most of the male characters of color ineffectual, you would have guessed correctly. While I do enjoy Felicity Jones' Jyn Erso far more than Rey, it doesn't make up for how the other characters are portrayed. We start with Saw Gerrera, a character first introduced in Clone Wars, where we see he is taught the ways of war by Obi-Wan Kenobi. And when we see him in Rogue One, he is a husk of a man, aged, crippled, and sickly. And his only job is to get Jyn Erso to her goal before he can get the sweet embrace of death, which would no doubt be preferable to his current condition. This formula is the theme of the rest of the male cast, whom are all minorities and misfits, including Cassian Andor, and are all killed in service of the mission. Next, we have the most egregious, in my mind, and often overlooked moment of Star Wars, and that is Lando Calrissian, originally played by Billy D. Williams, and then tragically by Donald Glover. This is a slap in the face for a number of reasons. Chief among them is that I'm a huge Donald Glover fan, due in no small part to the fact that we are both from Stone Mountain, Georgia, and our parents attend the same church. So it pains me to have to call this out. The character was introduced as a former associate of Han Solo and fellow smuggler turned administrator of Cloud City. He is cool, confident, and a charming ladies' man, And even though he betrays Han Solo, he redeems himself and is an asset to the Rebel Alliance, becoming a general in the Rebel fleet and leading the assault and destruction of the second Death Star. So when we found out that we would be getting a backstory to this awesome character, fans were excited only to be heartbroken when KK and Disney Star Wars interpretation of Lando was a bumbling smuggler with a droid fetish. This, I think, in no small part, led to this being the worst performing Star Wars film to date and is one of the reasons Solo lost money. Next, we have Boba Fett and Din Djarin. Boba Fett, not only in the D+ series The Mandalorian and in the original trilogies, was seen as a ruthless bounty hunter who would go to extremes to capture his targets, was seen as the most badass non-Jedi character in Star Wars, followed up closely by his fellow Mandalorian Din Djarin, played by Temuera Morrison and Pedro Pascal respectively. So after The Mandalorian Season 2, we see Boba Fett don his Durasteel armor once again. Fans were again hyped for the Mandalorian spinoff, The Book of Boba Fett, only again to have the male main character who had up until this point been a fan favorite reduced to a simpering loser who was constantly in need of saving by everyone, from his more capable female companion and former assassin Fennec Shand to Din Djarin and Grogu. This series turned the galaxy's most feared bounty hunter into an ineffectual shell of his former self, thanks to the machinations of Kathleen Kennedy. Even though Boba Fett, the series, was a joke, the fans still had hope for the third series of The Mandalorian, since up until this point, Kathleen Kennedy had very little involvement in the series that was led by Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni. Unfortunately, we were wrong. Season 3 of The Mandalorian completely shifts the focus from Din Djarin to Bo-Katan Kryze, played by Katie Sackhoff, making her the Wo-Mandalorian and derailing all of Din Djarin's character development up to this point, and puts into question whether or not the next season will have Din Djarin in it at all. It literally takes Bo-Katan, who is a fan favorite character from Star Wars, Clone Wars, and Star Wars Rebels, and takes over the Mandalorian series rather than just giving her own series, making the entire exercise stupid, and ultimately is the result, or the result of which was to lose over 50% of the fan base of The Mandalorian. This and the firing of Gina Carano has really just tarnished the entire fandom and the momentum going into Mandalorian Season 4, and I doubt that the series will be able to recover. So what's the future of male minorities in Star Wars? Well, with the next trilogy of movies kicking off with another film starring Daisy Ridley reprising her role as Rey Palpatine, and John Boyega nowhere in sight, and having no plans to redeem the failure of the character of Finn, there's little hope that Lucasfilm has learned any lessons from this list of failures. And as excited as I am for the upcoming Ahsoka series, I can't help but think that Rosario Dawson will be sidelined for more Kathleen Kennedy-inspired version of Sabine Wren when the series comes out this summer. But let me know what you think. Do you believe that Kathleen Kennedy, Lucasfilm, and Disney Star Wars have an issue when it comes to male minority characters, or do you think that this is just a reach? Sound off in the comment section, and we'll catch you on the next one. 8-Bit Heroes out. Peace.
If you'd like to get a shout out on the channel, then hit that like button, maybe share it with a couple of friends, and do us the biggest honor of all, and subscribe to the channel so you can join the 8-Bit Heroes family. And while you're at it, hit that bell icon so you can be notified when our new videos come out.